Alright, by midnight I need to have filmed, edited, made the thumbnail and upload this video, which means I've not got long left. I procrastinated my work too long and now I've not got enough time to finish this. So let's get started. This week we're building a stylized defocus, where instead of blurring as it gets further away from the camera, it dilates into a solid circle, which just fits my style better. Now this is for Blender 4.5, I don't know whether there's a better way of doing this in future versions, but I'm staying in 4.5 because of the add-ons that I'm using and they haven't been upgraded. The general gist is that we have the depth, which we then map using the f-stop input and the focal distance input, and then we use that to separate the image into layers. So this is our furthest layer, this is the next layer, and the next layer, and the next layer, and the layer after that, and the layer after that. This is the frontmost layer. And then, once we've got it separated, we can then dilate it however much we want, and then do a bunch of alpha overs to get them all on top of each other. Alright, let's start at the start. This stuff I've never actually used, but I thought it'd be interesting to, instead of have it go out of focus based on distance from the camera, have it be based on the distance from a coordinate. So if we turn this on and get this from 0, 0, 0, so the world origin, then no matter how far away from this we are, it will always have 0, 0, 0 in focus and then get more defocused after that. To be honest, no idea whether I'll actually use this or not, but it's a cool effect, so maybe I will. So we use the position layer output and subtract the location we put in here. I've just realised this stuff can just be simplified with a simple length node. I originally made this before vector math existed in compositing, so that's why that looked all funky and confusing. Now this looks a whole lot more simple. So essentially we're doing the length from the coordinate and then we're mixing that with the depth. Cool, let's turn this off. Then the f-stop is a measure of how defocused something will be. So a higher value will mean that it's more in focus, and a smaller value will mean it gets more and more out of focus. And this is a value that real cameras use. Let's use a value of 1 just to make it more obvious. We multiply it by 10 for good luck, I presume that just makes it work better, and then add on the focal distance, which is the distance that it focuses on. I currently don't have it go out of focus when it's closer to the camera than the focal distance, but that should be easy enough to do. I've just never found the need to do it. Let's bring this back to 0. So now that we've mapped the range of the depth, we can then look at this stuff. Now if I turn this off, then it doesn't actually do what I expected it to do. I was expecting this to kind of fix it where bright objects will they'll be anti-aliased over the top of the depth, and so they'll be dilated and so they'll be treated as the background, and because they're really bright, then that means you can tell really easily. But this doesn't seem to actually do anything. I don't know, it does something here, so I guess it's useful. Maybe it did fix that issue once, but then something else I did fixed it as well. Who knows? Copy this if you want to. We're just finding where the depth increases and using that as a factor to mix between the original image and an image that's been eroded by 2. And I'll explain the dilate and erode node later when it's more important. Right. Now, this stuff going up here, this is just so I can get an output to the node that lets me easily preview what the dilator is doing if I need to diagnose anything that's not actually used in the final result. So we can ignore this. So we take the depth, and the first layer, the furthest layer, will have a value that's greater than 0.9. We can then use this as a factor to mix the base colour, which is a bit messy, but that's just brought in from all the way down at the bottom here. So we mix the base colour to black, where it isn't the layer that we want, and then we also set the alpha. This is important so that when we do the alpha over it, they'll work correctly. I have realised that you can also probably just do a set alpha node and an alpha convert node to pre-multiplied, which does the same effect. I don't know, I don't have enough time to fix this. I'm fairly sure this node didn't exist when I first made this node group. Alright, so now we have our layer separated, we then need to dilate it, and I'll explain what that means. So, if we bring this into a dilate mode, and increase this value, then you see something happens. Then you'll see something happens. Well, fuck yeah, of course something happens. Fucking idiot. Right, so what happens is, if you've got a bright pixel and a dark pixel, if this size here is positive, then that means that every pixel will check all the pixels around it, and if there's a brighter pixel, then it'll swap to that. So the bright pixel and the dark pixel will then become both the same bright pixel. And as you would expect, if this size goes negative, then the opposite happens. The pixels inherit the nearest darkest pixel. And you'll notice that this is doing squares, whereas here it's doing circles. That's just because I've set this to distance. Now you may have noticed that this is only in black and white. The dilation road node only takes a black and white input. And you'd be very smart, well done. So to show how I got around that, let's go into this dilate layer node. What's going on here? I'm doing it a bunch of times. So you may know that images can be separated into multiple black and white images, or channels, for red, green and blue, and also alpha, which is transparency. So we can dilate each of these individual channels and then combine them back together to get it all coloured. Perfect. So here we're dilating by the size input multiplied by 2. I can't remember why I did multiplied by 2. I don't know, kill me. It's for good luck. And this size input is the max dilation input, which is over here. Since it's the furthest layer, we're doing all of the max dilation. Alright, let's have a look at everything else in this node group. We're also eroding the original image by 1, which I guess is why this doesn't do anything, because this still fixes the issue of bright areas overlapping onto the further areas and causing them to dilate, and then basically having out of focus bright areas even though they're in the foreground. So this fixes that. Then we do the dilation, and then we make it dimmer, because if it's dilating, because if you think of how real out of focus works, the light is being spread out over a further area, so it will get dimmer as it gets bigger. So even though we're not doing any blurring, it'll look better if we do the same thing of decreasing the brightness the bigger it gets. So we can divide by the size mapped to this, mapped range to this, and then that just makes it look better. Alright, let's go to the next layer forwards. This one's slightly more complicated. We've got a greater than node similar to before, this time with 0.8, but we've also got this colour ramp and they're multiplied together. What this does is now there's a smooth transition between this layer and the furthest layer. So it's not a harsh transition between them, it's a gradual change. This is tied to the fact that we're doing it in layers. So then we do the same thing of then setting the alpha, and now, because this is 0.8, now we're doing the max dilation times 0.8, so we're doing less than that. And so now it's less dilated, less out of focus. Now the next layer is very similar to the previous. Oh, I forgot to give you the values for the colour ramp. Let's go back. This is 0.9 and 0.95. Because if you remember, the greater than is 0.9, so this will start the gradient at 0.9 and then end at 0.95, if that makes any sense. So the next layer is exactly the same, but this time with a value of 0.6, and these are 0.8 and 0.85 with a dilation of 0.6 times the max dilation. Then same thing again, 0.4, 0.4, 0.6, 0.65. I'm sure you're seeing the pattern here. Although these aren't equally spaced out, I don't know, shoot me. 0.3, oh that should be 0.2. I'm pretty sure, let me just check. Yeah, well actually that's the last bit of dilation before the undilated layer. So maybe let's just do the 0.2. I have no fucking clue, I don't have time to fix any of this. I didn't make this thinking that I'd show this to the world, I don't know. Usually I go back and make it all work perfectly so it's more presentable to the wider public. I don't have the fucking time, it's 8 o'clock already. I've only got 4 hours to edit this and make the thumbnail and post it, fuck's sake. Right, so then this is 0.4 and 0.45, and then the undilated layer, 0.3 and 0.35. We're setting the alpha, but then we don't have the dilate layer node at all. We're just keeping it as is. Then starting from the backmost layer, we're doing a bunch of alpha overs. So the closest layer goes on top of the further layers. So then we get this. This is looking quite good. Oh, there's some issues happening there. What's going on there? I don't know, we'll fix that later. And we'll do an alpha over of the original image, just in case there's some areas with 0 alpha. I don't know. I think there was when I originally made it, but maybe there isn't anymore. Who knows? And then I've also got a factor here which you can use to turn this on and off. Although keep in mind, compositing isn't optimised in the same way geometry nodes and shader nodes are. So even if this factor is 0, and we're completely mixing with the original image and not using this at all in the final composite, it will still calculate all of this. So if you really want to turn it off, then I'd recommend muting the node group. But then you can't animate muting, so the factor is quite nice. Alright. And then in terms of fixing this weird stuff happening here, I think what the issue is that it's kind of in between two layers, so it's getting a bit confused and there's a bit of a gap. But if you followed the previous compositing tutorials that I've made, then you'll already have the fix for this, where we dilate everything by 1, which just makes it look a bit more round and kind of hides all the artifacts and all the other nodes as well. And then we do a Kuwahara filter to kind of smooth everything out. So now it's not really that noticeable, is it? Cool! Thank you very much for watching. I have now got 3 hours and 50 minutes to edit this, make a thumbnail and upload it. Wish me luck. I'll keep you updated. I've just finished editing. It's currently 11:25. Hopefully I can upload it on time, because last time I cut it quite close. And now I'm going to make the thumbnail, so hopefully I did such a good job that loads of people clicked on it, and now you're still watching to this point. Oh, I forgot to tell you to praise the hog.